Hey guys, it's Gentry over at Razorback Technology, and we are doing another install video for you. Today we're doing an install on a RZR Pro R 4-seater. We've already done an install on a 2-seater, but on this 4-seater we're actually going to be doing it a little bit differently. On the 2-seater we ran the harnesses on the driver's side, but on this specific machine we're actually going to show you how we install our new belt cooling fan as well. And that fan is installed on the primary air intake, which is on the passenger side of the vehicle. So instead of opening up both sides of the machine, we're just going to run all of the harnesses on the passenger side. So it should be very similar to that 2-seater install that we did, just on the opposite side. And then we'll show you how we mounted our fan and the controller that goes with it, and a few different options or mounting locations for that controller. But yeah, so get right to it and we'll show you how we did all that. Okay, one of the first things that we need to do is take these back seats out. And how you do that is just move the seat belts out of the way, and then back in behind here there's a little lever that you can press down on, and these will just lift out just like that. So we'll do that on each side so we can expose this panel right here, and then I'll show you all the clips that need to be removed. Okay, so this panel is actually split into two different pieces here. To get this top one off, you've got two of these quick disconnects on each side. Pull that panel off, and then this lower one, quick disconnect there and there, and that whole thing will come off. What we're also going to be doing is we're going to be mounting the fan controller up in this area, so we'll take this little piece off as well. There's just some push pins that need to be removed, and expose that. And what's also nice about these lower seats is you can actually just get these out of the way, create this flat surface, so you can work on the clutch housing once we get that exposed. Alright, so now that we have the clutch housing exposed, we need to get the clutch cover off. And what you'll want to do, just because it'll give you a little bit more room, is there's this piece of plastic right here that'll just pop right off. Get that out of the way, gives you a little bit more space. And then you'll want to take the this hose off, and so these clamps, just untighten those right there, and then one on that other side, pull that hose out. And then this clutch cover has some bolts on top and then some quick disconnects down below. The only bolt that's real difficult to get to is this one that's over here. There's not a lot of clearance, and so if you have a gear wrench, that would make that one easier to come out, but the rest of them you should be able to get a drill to them, and then just take the quick disconnects along the bottom out and then pull that cover right off. Alright, so now that we have the clutch cover off, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your belt off, and we do already have this sensor installed because we were doing some testing, but you'll want to take this belt off, and how you do that is you take this little tool right here and you screw that into this hole, and that's going to push this clutch out so that you can pull this this belt out. And so what we ended up doing was we measured with a tape measure from this edge to about 2 inches. We took a silver Sharpie and marked a little hole, and then we drilled from on top. And what we ended up using was this little angle drill with this step bit. It was pretty easy to get on top, and you just drill a 1/2 inch hole right above there, and secure that down. And you really don't want that sensor too far in. Let's see if I can show you that. So we've only got about 2 threads exposed after that jam nut. We do have some blue Loctite on that, and then we'd have some silicone on top. That's why this sand is stick into there. But anyways, so that's how you install the sensor on this Pro R. Alright, so what we've got to do is we've got to take this seat out. And how you do that is there's a little latch on the front that you can pull up on, and it releases the seat from the back, and then it'll tilt forward, and then you can just lift it out. So what's nice about this machine is there are batteries on both sides, one under the driver's seat and then one under the passenger seat. So because we're going to be running all the harnesses on the passenger side of the vehicle, we're going to be installing the fan on the primary air intake, and then we can still install the sensor from this side of the vehicle. So we're just going to run everything on the passenger side. And so how we'll do that is we'll take off this whole fender. There's all these bolts. There's some bolts under here too, and then just remove this whole side panel so that we can run those harnesses along the side here. But the fan harness, it needs to be connected directly to the battery, and then there's a trigger wire on it that will run up the side and go up to your key on power. And that's also where we will have the gauge powered, is underneath here. There's a bus bar, and we'll show you a little bit closer once we do that, how we connect the power there. So we'll go to that point, we'll take all this off, we'll show you the harnesses ran. Okay, so there's some really interesting push pins that I wanted to show you that are underneath this dash here. But if you didn't know that they were here, you'd be pulling your hair out. There's this one right here that needs to come out. I don't know if you can see that very well. Okay, there's this one that needs to come out, and then this one way back in here that needs to come out, or else this whole piece will not come off. So just wanted to point that out to you. Okay, I wanted to show you one other thing. So we're working on connecting the power harness for the fan, and what we're going to end up doing is I want to send the connector to the fan right through this hole where that light's coming through, but it's just not quite big enough. And this is the connector that I'm referring to. Where is it? Oh. So this connector right here is going to be plugging into the fan controller. So I want to fit it right through that hole so I can get it inside this tunnel here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill that hole out a little bit bigger so I can fit that connector through that hole. So we won't have any wires, on top of here trying to fit them inside the tunnel. So that's what we'll do. And again, it's just that little hole right there where the light's coming through. We're just going to make that a little bit bigger to fit that connector through. So alright, so we've got the pulse bar connector now connected, and so we've got our trigger wire and our power for our gauge, and then also this is an optional LED harness for our switches, so we have that tied into this key on power as well. So on these pulse bar connectors, you've got these 3 wires. Black is your ground, the yellow is your key on, and then your red is your constant power. So we're not going to be using that. We want the accessory, or that key on power. So, and then that'll just plug right in to one of those spots there, and you'll get power. And so this is where our gauge is going to be powered, and then like I said, that trigger wire, and then our LED switch. And where we are going to be mounting our switch is just right into one of these empty spots. And on the switch, so again, this is just for the LED option. We normally have some label on the side here, but the top pins or terminals are for your power, and then this is for your dimmer and your gauge menu that goes to the gauge. So that's what that looks like. We have ran the power for the fan, so we have that hooked up. And like I said, we drilled this this hole out a little bit bigger. Let me get the light for you. So we drilled that hole out, and then there's the relay right there, and then the trigger wire, and then everything comes out into the side tunnel here. So yeah, we've got all of the harnesses ran. Got the down the side, and then that is the fan connector from the gauge connected to the fan communicator cable. And we've got the sensor installed, so we just ran that up, and then this is going to be where we're mounting the controller for that fan. We were thinking of a different location, but the power harness for this controller is actually not long enough. It actually works perfectly right here, and so we'll show you what that is going to look like after it's actually mounted. Go. So where we decided to mount the controller for the fan is right in here. It was really the only place that we could think of that this power harness could reach. And then we would have plenty of space or plenty of harness length to connect to the fan that's just right behind here. We originally wanted to put it onto this back plate, but there's some stuff here that we didn't want to mess with, so we opted to mount it right there. And what we ended up doing is we did drill 2 holes in this metal plate here to mount that controller. And how we did that is and what you could do is before you put this in there, just use your controller that you have, and then use some black or some silver Sharpies and just marked those spots, drilled the holes, and then mounted it on the other side. And let me show you what it looks like on the other side. It looks fairly clean. You can see the Razorback logo just on the outside here a little bit, and then that fan harness just comes out right there, and then we just had all the harnesses from the controller go down the side there. So fairly easy spot. So yeah, that's where we ended up mounting that controller. Okay, so this is where we're going to be installing that belt cooling fan, is in the primary air intake hose. And in these kits for the Pro R, we include 2 flexible hoses and then some extra hose clamps. And also this strap right here, and I'll show you what that's used for. And then as well as this hard plastic sleeve coupler. It's not really a sleeve, but that goes inside, and I'll show you that. But so first thing you're going to do is, and I've already loosened the hose clamps on these, is we're going to remove the stock tube. And then this hard plastic is going to go inside. I might need 2 hands for this. Alright, so this hard plastic piece is going to go inside that opening here to the clutch. And so the reason for this is because this right here is flexible, and the hose that we're going to be including is also flexible, and so trying to clamp that together is not going to work. So we include this little piece here, so you've got something hard to clamp down onto. And then this little strap is to pull the hose over to the side or closer into the wheel well, so it's away from your shock tower. So I will get that all installed and show you how it looks. So here's the fan and hoses installed. There's 2 hose clamps down there on that primary opening, and then just your normal hose clamp up there, and then the fan right there. So that strap, I'm going to show you what that's going to look like. If I can do this with one hand, might be able to. So it kind of sucks that in closer into the wheel well to keep it further away from that shock tower, and so it won't be bouncing around. So it's pretty sturdy right there. So we have a Pro XP, Pro R, and Turbo R gauge cluster mount. That's what this is right here. And so how you install this, or at least the easiest way to install this on this stock gauge cluster, is there are 4 bolts back here that need to be removed. These 2 and these 2. And then obviously pull this connection out, and this whole unit will come right off. So that way you have access to the entire back side of this gauge cluster, so that you can mount those or put those bolts on that mount. And I do have a video specifically showing you how to install one of these mounts. So if you want to see that, I'll put a link in the description so you can go and watch that. All right, one of the last things that we do before we button everything up is make sure it all works. And so we'll turn it on, make sure the gauge is working, make sure the fan turns on, and then also make sure that our LED switch is powered on as well. So here we go. You can hear the fan turn on. Let me turn the brightness down on this gauge so you can see that. The gauge is on. The LED Razorback switch is on. And so what we'll also do, try and get the glare out of the way. What we'll do to test the fan, bottom right corner is that number 5. So that's the fan power level at idle, and you can adjust that with the switch. And so we'll turn the idle speed, or the minimum speed, as high up as we can to make sure that the fan is getting that signal so it speeds up and slows down. That way you know it's connected to the gauge properly. So hold in your rocker switch, and then the fan minimum speed, what we'll do is we'll change the max speed first to 100, and then we'll have to cycle through to the very top. Fan minimum speed, hold it in. Okay. I don't know if you can hear it, but I can hear it. It's definitely working. Okay, so it looks like everything is working properly. So that is a good sign. So we will button everything back up and show you the final install.